Hello, and thank you for visiting Graphene Business Law. My name is Pam, and I'm the principal lawyer and founder here at Graphene Business Law. If you're new to our YouTube channel, go ahead and feel free to click on the red subscribe button down below and give this video a thumbs up. Here at Graphene, we regularly post content that is most relevant to business owners and entrepreneurs. And of course, our law firm services primarily business owners and entrepreneurs. On the channel, we also have a few other series, including a series on law students and questions law students may ask, and things that may be of particular interest to those currently in law school. Of course, as a lawyer myself, I had to go through law school and learn some of the topics I discuss on this channel the hard way. And still to this day, I find that the questions that law school students haven't really changed much. Everyone's worried about the same things. Everyone is worried about getting a job as a lawyer at the end of law school. And of course, before that comes articling and come internships and come good grades and come extracurriculars, of which there are so many options at almost all schools I know of. And comes pressure and comes social anxieties and social atmospheres that you have to deal with and social circles and all of that, and then more. So today's topic, I posted on the channel before about law students that maybe aren't able to find a law job. So how do you find a law adjacent or law relevant job and make the most out of that and make the most out of those transferable skills? And I'll link that video in the description box down below. Now, of course, that kind of has the follow-up question. Well, what if you find literally nothing? And in today's post-COVID economy, not post-COVID in that COVID is entirely dead. COVID is still a thing in the world, but generally speaking, like the world is the most free it's been in a few years in the sense of being able to go outside and go to a restaurant and go to work in person and those things. There's still a lot of issues in the world, a lot of very serious issues, but we're talking about your ability to go and work in person in this video, okay? Or work at all, right? So in the COVID resurgence, if you will, there are new positions being created. There's some positions that we might not even have heard of prior to COVID now in the world that seems more remote than ever before. But at the same time, there's still this push from employers to come in person. And it's creating this weird setting I find in a lot of my, whether it's clients or friends, you hear things on the street, like there's both more options to get a job than ever, and also people seem to be having a harder time getting a job than ever. So tying this back to the last video I posted in terms of finding any position for you, well, I understand that that might be easier said than done, and that there might be issues in today's economy finding any job, okay? I'm well aware that there's like managers applying for customer service jobs out there. I'm well aware of all of these things going on that are making it, like I said, harder than ever to find a job. And that includes for people like you, like law students such as yourself. So what do you do? What do you do if literally nobody has hired you? First of all, I'm not going to talk too much about the financial side of that in this video, because that, I understand, can be an immense struggle. And I don't want to make this video a 3-hour-long seminar on, financial planning and student loans and all that. So I want to say right off the bat, I acknowledge the financial difficulties as well. Okay, I do. But I want to make this video more about, being a law firm and being a lawyer and talking to law students. Make it more about how can you prevent yourself from losing your touch, so to speak. How can you stay somewhat relevant in a world where now not only do you not have a law job, but you don't have any job, period. On that, from the intellectual perspective, from the intelligence perspective, from the social perspective, how can you stay relevant if you're not working this summer? Okay. And I wanted to discuss three ways that I find not only super helpful, but and super relevant, but also all three of these methods are totally free. Now, again, how you talk about them in a cover letter or resume is totally up to you. I'm sure you can repurpose some of these ideas, if not all of them, into, into a more creative twist, if you will, perhaps more creative than I'm speaking about them, more creatively than I'm speaking about them. But I just want to share with you some ideas. The first idea is go to court. Go to court, open the door. If you're in Toronto, go to University Avenue, open the door of any of these courts, sit in the back of the courtroom and just watch, okay? Just watch, just listen. From doing that alone, you are so far ahead from an experience and an intelligence and an intellectual perspective than so many of your classmates. Again, when I'm speaking this video, calling it like it is, there's people in law school that are very well connected. And I don't know if you're necessarily watching this video because, well, why would you be, right? Like, somebody's found you a job, you're okay. I'm putting this video out to persons that might be less privileged, right? Less advantaged in life, might have less opportunities. And as somebody watching this video that's in that position, you need to know, don't be scared about any of that. Like, there are people working at some of the top law firms you might hear about, in your life, in the movies, in wherever, that literally have never once gone to court by the end of their articling, okay? So, like, they just don't get that opportunity in certain work settings. Not to say there's no advantages to being in those settings, but that real hands-on beating the iron kind of thing is not necessarily what's going on in some of those settings. I'll leave it at that. So if you're going to court, if you're sitting in the back of the courtroom, if you're hearing how judges or masters speak, if you're hearing how opposing counsel speaks to each other, if you're hearing how, lawyers speak to the judge, lawyers speak to their client, you're already so far ahead in terms of practical experience. One of the most valuable things I did in my time in, I was going to say summer school, in my time in summer internships, whether it was right before work or whatever the case might be, I would go to court and I learned, where to stand when you hand papers into the court, right? And sometimes you give them, like, there's different staff in the courtroom. So who do you give it to? And I remember, seeing law students, articling students that were at some really big name shops, and it was obvious it was their first time in court. First off, because most of the time they'll try to make a conversation out of it, but also from the way, like, who do I give this to? Like, this is literally free knowledge. Come to court, sit in the back of a courtroom one day, and you'll learn an actual practical thing that is valuable, okay? And it's free, just because you showed up to sit in the back of a room. Now, you can do a lot more than that once you put yourself in the back of the room. You can go over and over again. You can go to different, courts and different rooms. Like, with Graphene doing business law, there's the commercial list, and there's bankruptcy law, and there's this and that. There's so many different court settings, and a lot of them you'll be able to go and sit in the back of that courtroom. You'll hear how judges speak. You'll hear, these inside jokes and these things that there's no way that they could ever be captured in a textbook while you're in law school. So go to court. It's free. It's open to the public. Sit in the back. Just by doing that, you're winning. And you can do even more if you want to. You can introduce yourself to some lawyers. You can, I think it'd be a little weird to introduce yourself to some clients. I don't know why you do that if they're there with a lawyer, but you can introduce yourself to people. Other students are going to be there. You can grow from that experience, from that free experience. I'm looking down at my list here. Another thing I have that is completely free, depending on how you approach it, but the way I suggest you approach it is completely free. And that is, think of the courses you're taking next semester, assuming this is summer, right? Like, we're talking about, we talked about summer internships and jobs, so I'm still keeping this video in the summer prism. Think of the courses you're taking next semester. You've already signed up for them, or if you haven't, you know what you're going to take, or you know what you want to take, and go look at the textbooks for those courses. Go look at books of relevance to those courses in those areas of practice. If you're in Toronto, there's the Great Library down at Osgoode Hall. Like, there are places with free law books that are very expensive, very big, with a lot of knowledge in them, okay? And sometimes some of the useful books, if not the most useful that you'll find at these places, aren't even textbooks. They're the practitioner guides, the annotated guides, more nuanced pieces of work, and you can access them all for free. Now, follow-up question. What do I do with the book once I get there? Okay. The point is not to memorize everything you see in the book. The point is not to memorize anything you see in the book. Open it, I forget who it was, if Confucius perhaps said, I've never opened a book and learned nothing out of it. Okay. Open it, look at the subheadings, look at the chapter titles, look at something, and you're going to learn something, right? Maybe something inspires you. Maybe something helps you. Maybe something you read puts you, a week ahead in your next semester. But a semester is only 12 weeks most of the time. So if you're a week ahead in your understanding, you're really far ahead, okay? So try to learn. It's free, okay? It's free. Try to learn. If you can't go to the Great Library, talk to other students in your law school. Maybe somebody's done the course that you're taking and they can lend you their book for the summer for free. Do your best to learn as much as you can. It's your responsibility how much your reality comes close to your expectations of life, right? Like if you have these expectations to be the next, I don't know, whatever show you've seen with a really cool lawyer on it, if your expectation is to be that person, you got to know how to read the law textbooks. You got to start somewhere. So start with these free, incredibly valuable resources and make the most out of it, because they're just sitting there and most people walk past them their whole life. Most people are going to walk past Osgoode Hall their whole life and not know what it is. And for those that go inside, they're still not going to make the most out of those books, okay? Like, you'd be shocked how many people I see in Osgoode Hall taking selfies in the stairways or in the, with the older books as a background, as opposed to just like pouring into those resources. These are free resources. Learn from that. And again, that's a starting point. What you do once you're there is up to you. To go there, last time I went there, you need to show like Law Society ID. So chances are everybody in this building is either a lawyer or a law student or law something, okay? So there's not really much of a wrong person to talk to once you're in that setting. You can network. You can, again, just as with the court setting, grow from being in this free setting. Free to you, as a law student, I'll say that. Another thing, and I have another suggestion is talking to lawyers, okay? And we've kind of come around this with the first suggestion and the second suggestion, in that you can talk to lawyers in any of these settings, but you can also talk to lawyers by never going somewhere in person in your life, in your summer life. You can call people, you can email people, and you can set up phone calls. You can set up, email questions. Can I email you 2 questions? Can I call you for 10 minutes? Can I whatever? Can I Zoom you for 30 minutes? Not everybody is able to go somewhere in person. There's a lot of anxiety, around what to wear, and, is my suit as expensive as his, or who pays for what once I'm out on a coffee date with this lawyer. And by the way, it should always be the lawyer, but don't expect it, I guess. But it should, if you're, hashtag broke law student syndrome, I hope it's the lawyers paying for the coffee of the law students and not the other way around. But there can be, I understand how there can be all these anxieties and all these thoughts about going somewhere in person, and if you're good enough, or if you're dressed enough, or if whatever, okay? You don't have to do any of that. Talk to somebody on the phone. You don't ever have to see their face if you're nervous to show your face. Talk to somebody on Zoom. You don't ever have to shake their hand if you're nervous to be in person, and, social etiquette in person. But you can learn so much. And I find law is an area of practice where practitioners do enjoy talking about themselves. So make the most out of that. Hear how people started, try to get a sense of their stories, of their realities now that they're in practice. And there's so much to learn, and there are so many ways you can stay abreast of the law and of legal issues and of ways to practice and of, tips and tricks in the practice, without ever leaving your home for some of them, and without spending $1 for some of these other ideas, other than, of course, transporting yourself to the place you're going to. So I hope this video helps. I really, empathize and relate to so many of the law student dilemmas And from what I hear today from friends that are still in law school, like these issues have still stayed the same because such is human nature. There's still so many of these same worries and anxieties, and there's a way around everything, okay? There's a way around everything. And again, I didn't want this video to touch on finances because I understand that's a whole other thing. I really do. But at the very least, you don't have to worry about losing your touch, you know, in terms of when you go back to law school next semester. You really don't. So I hope this video has helped. I know sometimes, you know, there's questions in the comments. I'm happy to answer those questions because been there, done that. And, you know, chin up in the law game. It usually works out at the end. And I hope this video has been helpful for those of you watching. And thank you for watching.